Howard, it might be an internet connection. I don't know how close you
All right,
are.
my dear friends, we're going live now. It is so wonderful to see everyone this beautiful Thursday morning. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone is healthy, and I look forward to hearing from each of you throughout the class. Hopefully, I look forward to seeing everybody, to talking and hearing how everyone is doing. So we are up to Parshas Acharei-Kedoshim, and we're on page 216. So if you have page 216 on your Rabbi Wolbe on Chumash, part 2. I look forward to talking about this parsha. Very, very important. In the book of Leviticus, we have many important pieces of information where the Almighty, in his great kindness, is giving us many important pointers. One of the incredible things that we have in this week's parsha is what most people don't even know is part of our own Torah. They think it's something from Christianity, but the verse that it says, "V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha," is that you should love your fellow like yourself. Right? This is a Torah commandment. So I'm going to unmute everyone, and then we'll begin. We're going around. Well, I'm going to go from my screen from what I see from left to right. We'll start with Linda. If you can start the reading, and you are live. Go.
You shall observe my decrees and my laws, which a person should perform, and through them he shall live. I am Hashem. The Torah is referring here not to physical living, but rather to spiritual living. The performance of mitzvahs enables us to live more spiritually elevated lives. The Gemara says, regarding one who accidentally kills another person and is forced to flee to a city of refuge, he shall run to one of these cities and he will live. Create for him a situation whereby he can live. When a student is exiled to a city of refuge, his Rebbi should be exiled along with him. When the Torah refers to life, it is referring to life in a spiritual sense. The Rambam expresses this concept succinctly when quoting the above halacha. When a student is exiled to a city of refuge, we send his Rebbi into exile along with him, as the Torah writes, and he will live. Do for him something whereby he will live. And for those who seek wisdom without Torah, it is as if they were dead.
Right. So it's a very interesting halacha that if someone were to go to exile, if someone was sent to exile, they send their rabbi with them. Right? The rabbi doesn't stay home and take care of the congregation. The rabbi needs to take care of him. And the reason is obvious. The reason is because our sages explain that sometimes if the rabbi doesn't do his job properly and doesn't inspire and influence his congregants or his students appropriately, then what happens is that they end up doing things that are not correct. And so the rabbi should be held accountable, not just the student who didn't appropriately conduct his life. So what we do is we send his student. But there's another point here which our sages are telling us, is that we want him to live, and he shall live, right? And living a life without inspiration, living a life without Torah, is not considered life. So therefore we send his rabbi with him so that he can learn.
What happens to the rest of the community if the rabbi goes with him?
I guess they'll have to find someone else to teach them Torah. Right. All right, Edward, please. Ed, check up.
Yeah. It is very possible for a person to amass great amounts of Torah knowledge, but still not live with the Torah. How can we attain the level where the Torah becomes part of our very life? The answer is as follows. Just as physical life cannot tolerate interruptions, a heart that stops beating for even a matter of minutes can no longer be resuscitated. So too, a Torah life does not tolerate interruptions. We say the Shema, and when you shall speak in Torah, when you sit in your house, boy, you can't be near me. Okay.
Listen all that.
Right, it's okay. We say in the Shema, and when you shall speak in Torah, when you sit in your house, when you travel, when you lie down, and when you wake up. How can one be constantly involved in Torah? This can only be accomplished if he is thinking about the Torah, even when he is not actually learning it. The more one thinks about the Torah, the more it becomes part of his being until it becomes literally his life.
So it's a very interesting thing. It's a very important concept. Actually, yesterday in my class last night, with my learning with my study partner, we actually got into this discussion of what it means to really be a person of truth, right? Truth is like this, okay? So let's say I am a coach and I tell my students, a health coach, okay? And I tell my students, I say, listen, you know what we're gonna do? We are going to talk about what it means to have healthy eating. So we have a whole class about what it means to be healthy. And then I do everything that I told them not to do, right? That's not living truthfully. It means I can't preach one thing and do another thing. It's a very important idea, okay? I'll tell you how we got into this discussion. We got into this discussion because we were talking about what happens in the time of Messiah. So there are two parts of the coming of Messiah. Number one is that when there's kindness, that brings Mashiach. But when there is truth, that's when we were able to reveal Mashiach. It means there's two elements here. Number one is bringing Mashiach, and number two is revealing Mashiach. Bringing Mashiach, we need kindness. Today we have in the Jewish world, it's unprecedented, the acts of kindness that are available in the Jewish community. It is unbelievable. It's the envy of the world. It really is. But truth may not be, we're not there yet. Truth means that in every business dealing, truth means the way in which we live our lives. Truth means that we don't live with any contradictions. So let me give you an example of a contradiction and how this can be misunderstood, okay? So if a person is studying Torah, and they know that in their study of Torah, learning, keeping kosher, right? Keeping kosher is a mitzvah in the Torah. So I know that that's the right thing to do, but am I actually doing it? Okay, so that becomes a contradiction of my existence, because on one hand, I want to observe it, I believe in it, but on the other hand, I'm not doing it. Same thing is with Shabbos. The same thing is with any other aspect of Judaism. So this is where the cautionary note, and that is that just because we know it doesn't mean that we observe it yet. It means there's a difference between saying, okay, I know the truth, I know the right way to go, I'm just not there yet, versus saying, denying it completely. And what we have to be careful about is denying it completely. We have to be cautious about pushing it aside and not letting it be real in our lives. Okay, that means there's a difference between saying, you know what, my aspiration is to observe a full Shabbos. My aspiration is to get to a point where I only eat kosher. I'm just not there yet, right? And you have to appreciate this, because there's a process in our spiritual growth. I have a dear friend of mine who told me that he grew up, he says his mother from the womb, fed him shellfish. That was the reality of how he was brought up. So for him to change to a life of kosher is an enormous shift, an enormous shift. So is he completely kosher? He's not completely kosher, but he took one major step in that he's no longer eating shellfish, right? So that's a huge step. It's a huge step for someone to take. Does that mean that he's completely kosher? No, but he's in the process, right? Someone may not keep all of Shabbos, but can I limit my driving that on Friday nights I don't drive anymore? Friday, it's not a big deal because Shabbos comes in. If you take a Shabbos in the summer, Shabbos comes in at 8 o'clock at night. So if we get most of our things ready before Shabbos, right? So from Friday sunset till the next morning when I wake up, that's already more than half of Shabbos. It's more than half of Shabbos. That's unbelievable, right? That really is special. So even though I may not be doing the whole thing, but could I take one step more than I'm currently doing? And that's the goal, okay? What we're trying to say is not that we change the rules, let's move the goalposts, but let's adjust, let's move ourselves a little bit closer towards it. Let's move. Doesn't mean we have to get a goal. It doesn't mean we have to get a strike. It doesn't mean you have to be perfect and get everything. Let's take a step. And that's the idea here when we're talking about truth, is let's not live with contradictions. It means I can't be learning about something and living a totally different life. We'll give another example. Aristotle, I've given this example dozens of times, right? Aristotle was known to be a great philanderer, and he did not live a very righteous and suitable life for someone of his stature and wisdom, right? And when his students approached him about that, he said, well, now I'm just me. Now I'm not a philosopher. Now I'm not this great intelligent professor. Now I'm just me. Now I'm just human. That's living in a contradiction, right? We can't be two different people. So we could be a person though, and it could get us scared at times. What do you mean? I have to change my whole life? Relax, right? We don't have to change our whole life. We have to take a single step, and that's the idea. That's a big difference between my goal is perfection and being perfect, or saying, you know what, no one's perfect. I'm not even trying. Let's aim for it. Are we going to attain it? Maybe, maybe not. But at least let's make that our goal. So here, when he's talking about living Torah, meaning that the concepts that we learn shouldn't just be concepts that are intellectually stimulating. Torah is not another subject that we have in our book. We have math, we have science, we have vocabulary, we have language, and we have Judaism. That's not the way it should be. It should be that it is the essence of our lives. Okay, our lives is our existence in our Judaism. Okay, let's continue. Pascal?
I don't have.
You don't have the book. Okay, I'm sorry.
I have the book, Rabbi. Sorry.
No problem. Howard, do you have the book?
Yeah, but I'm trying to remember where he stopped reading.
217.
No, I have the book.
This is the ultimate goal.
Okay, this is the ultimate goal. Practically speaking, however, it is nearly impossible to be thinking about Torah when one is speaking to another person involved in his work or driving a car. Yet there are many opportunities during the day that do lend themselves to thinking about Torah. Instead of letting our minds wander, we can use the time productively to review something we learned, consider how we can do chesed, think about an upcoming Yom Tov, or contemplate the significance of the days of Sephiras HaOmer. Torah isn't relegated solely to the time that a person spends in front of an open sefer. Torah is our very life.
So I'll tell you something. I had a great experience yesterday. So I go jogging. I try to go jogging as frequently as possible. So yesterday, before I went on a jog, I picked a podcast of a friend of mine. You may know him. His name is Dan Coleman. He's actually the board president of TORCH.
Yep.
And he has a new podcast. It's called the Shema podcast. It is a beautiful, beautiful podcast. I love it. He talks about his own journey in spirituality. It's like the guide for the perplexed on a podcast. It really is an incredible, incredible podcast. And he was interviewing Rabbi Yaakov Wolbe, who's formerly a part of Torch, an employee of Torch, and they spoke about the holiday of Shavuot. And what I realized is that I was completely immersed in this podcast, and I'm jogging, I'm going, and I spent that 45 minutes of jogging learning. So even when I was jogging, I was able to get in my Torah study. So while I can also listen to political commentary, I can listen to TED Talks, I can listen to all of these other things, I can also utilize that time. And by the way, fulfill a biblical commandment that on your ways, right? Because the Torah, in Shema, we say, it says over here, and you shall speak in Torah when you sit in your house, when you travel, and when you lie down, and when you wake up, right? So what's when we travel? When we travel is when we're not just stationary in our seats, at our desk, but it's also when we're out and about, when we're traveling, when we go to Costco, when we go to run our errands, you go to Trader Joe's, wherever it is that you go, that you have in your mind a thought, that you have an idea. My grandfather would always say this, and it rings more and more true to me every day. He would say that when you go out of your home and you go to the marketplace and you go wherever you go, he says, before you leave, open up a book, a Torah book, get a verse, get an idea, and then just start thinking about it. And then when you're out and about, your mind is really thinking about this Torah thought. And your mind is not looking about what that person is wearing. You're not looking about fashion. You're not looking about window shopping. You're not looking. Your mind is in a place of constant thought and being immersed in Torah, even when we're out and about. The quality of that is that we are able to elevate the things that we do, the ordinary things that we do, to become more holy. So that we're not. So then imagine we're in the middle of thinking of this lovely Jewish Torah thought, and someone cuts us on the line. Do you think we'll be kinder? I think so. I think it has this impact on us. I want to share with you a Talmud. I have to get the Talmud and show it to you inside so that you understand that I'm not just making this up. But I'll tell you an amazing story. There's a story told about Rebbi Akiva. We know the great Rebbi Akiva, the same Rebbi Akiva that had 24,000 students that passed during these days of the Omer. And it's remarkable that if you look at the Talmud relates about his wife, Rachel, that she saw him, this shepherd, she saw potential in him. And she said, I want to invest my life in him. And she married him. And her father said, you're marrying this lowlife Akiva, this shepherd Akiva. Her father was a very, very wealthy man. If you marry him, trying to dissuade her from marrying this guy, he says, if you marry him, I will ban you and him forever from enjoying from my wealth. Okay. She was ready to take the plunge, and she got married to him anyway. And she sent him to go learn in yeshiva, and he learned there for 12 years, and we know that he went and stayed for another 12 years. And 24 years later, he comes back with 12,000 pairs of students. 24,000 students. It's unbelievable. And now he's the leader of the Jewish people. He's the head of the institutions of Torah. He is the be all of Torah Judaism. And he comes and he eats at his father-in-law's house. One second, didn't his father-in-law make an oath that he should not benefit? And the Talmud goes into this. One second, isn't this an and not he needs an annulment for his vow, right? Here he made an oath that he will never benefit from his possessions. And 24 years later, here he goes. He's inviting him into his house, and he's feeding him, and he's taking care of him because now he's the big kahuna, right? He's the chief rabbi. So the Talmud says an unbelievable thing. He says the way it works is as follows. When someone goes to study Torah, they become a different person. And now regarding that oath that the father-in-law made, that was on Akiva the shepherd. That was not on Akiva the scholar. That was not on Rabbi Akiva, the great Torah scholar. Because when someone goes to learn Torah, they become a different person. It is impossible for someone to learn Torah and not be influenced. You know, you can go to law school. You go to law school and you have a bad temper. So what happens when you leave law school and you graduate? You're a bad-tempered lawyer, right? If someone is a jealous person and goes to medical school, what happens when they leave medical school and they graduate? They're now a jealous doctor, right? Nothing changes. Your character doesn't change because you got more education. But that's not the same when you study Torah. I want to share with you an unbelievable halacha. The halacha says that if you take something which is treif, okay, you take a piece of pork, you take a piece of non-kosher chicken, non-kosher meat, and you immerse it in honey. Now, not honey for dip, not honey smoked pork, right? Or a honey roasted. Now, talking about you leave it inside honey for an extended period of time. I don't remember how much time, maybe 6 months, a year, 2 years. I don't know exactly how much. That after that period of time, you can take it out and eat it. Now, here's the trick. You think that, it's a freebie. Now I can eat my pork. It's not true. What happens is that now, over the period of time that it was sitting in that honey, it completely becomes honey as well. Honey is so powerful that it completely removes all of the elements of that non-kosher meat, and now all of that non-kosher meat became honey because it was absorbed in the honey. All right? So now all of that meat is no longer meat, it really is honey. We know that the Torah is compared to honey. When someone absorbs themselves in that honey called Torah, it eradicates the anger. It eradicates the jealousy. It eradicates all of the bad traits. Why? Because we become a piece of that honey. So while someone can think, me, who am I? I'm not worthy of, Rabbi, if you knew what I did, you wouldn't invite me, right? You wouldn't tell me to come on Torah. And I've had people tell me that. Rabbi, you don't know the things I do. If you only knew the things I did, you would never invite me. And that's not true. It's quite the contrary. The Torah is the ingredient. It is the most powerful tool in the world that when one immerses themselves in Torah study, they become Torah. And I have seen this not only with myself, I've seen this with hundreds and hundreds of people who've come in one way and left a totally different person. That is the way of Torah. And what we're trying to do in our study of Torah is not to just, it's nice. Rabbi Wolbe, he gives a nice class. It makes me feel good, right? It enhances my day. It gives me my boost, right? That could be, but that's not the reason. The reason is because our goal in Torah is to immerse ourselves in it, to become that, God forbid, no Jew is treif. But if a person has an element of themselves that is imperfect, that when we immerse that imperfection in that honey, we become honey. We become that sweetness. And it completely eradicates all of that negativity. It eradicates all of that. So it's exactly, Most people think, and this is one of the biggest misconceptions that Jews have about Judaism, most people think that it's all or nothing. And it's not true. It's patently false. It's not all or nothing. The Torah is about what is your next step. That's it. What is your next step? And every person's next step is different because every person has a different point A, where their starting point, and every person has a different point B, their end point. And God doesn't want us to all be the same. God doesn't want us to all be the puppets. God wants us each to have our own uniqueness in our Torah. I was once at a program, and I met this young man, and he says to me that we were talking. He says to me that he has a special program he's doing in memory of one of his friends who passed away in the IDF, with someone from his unit, and this guy at that time I don't believe was observant at all, but he wanted to do something special for his friend who passed away. And so he was doing is he said, Rabbi, if you know anyone who needs a pair of tzitzit, and this is an offer to anybody who wants to wear tzitzit, he says, anybody that you know, he says, I'm giving out free tzitzit, free fringes, right? And it's a mitzvah in the Torah that any four-cornered garment should have tzitzit. So he says, free, anybody who wants. He says, you just give me a call, tell me what size, and I will come and deliver it to the Torch Center. Okay, while I'm standing there, another Israeli guy, walks into the conversation, says, well, what's going on? And this guy has a long ponytail, he's got an earring, and he says, so he starts telling me, my friend passed away, and I wanted to do something special for him in his memory, and I give out free tzitzit. He says, oh, maybe I'll wear tzitzit. And like a minute later, we're talking about what size he needs. He says, you know what? Forget it. I can't wear tzitzit. So we both looked at him and said, why not? So he says, I don't eat kosher. I can't wear tzitzit and not eat kosher. It's like, I'll be a hypocrite, right? And he says, and I don't always talk nicely. I sometimes say foul language. So I can't be wearing tzitzit, and it's like, well, I'm going to take off my tzitzit and start using my foul language. I can't do that. So I said, that's a big mistake. It's a very big mistake. It's not all or nothing. It's not all or nothing. You don't have to be perfect to keep Shabbos. You don't have to be perfect to start doing a mitzvah. So what are we going to do? We take our mezuzahs off our door because sometimes food might be not kosher in our home. So then we'll be at nowhere. So what we do is we take a step, and every step counts. Every step adds up. So we'll start with the mezuzah. We say, we're going to sanctify our home, and then whether it be the tzitzis or whether it be putting on tefillin every day, we sanctify our day, and whether it be that we're only going to keep kosher, we're sanctifying our soul. Each one has a purification that it contributes towards our holiness. And what we're trying to accomplish is elevate ourselves to become a greater person today than I was yesterday. It's not about thinking, oh, I need it all in order to really be what God wants me to be. I need to take a step. And there's a Mishnah that I studied with my son just 2 days ago. My favorite Mishnah, it's the end of the 2nd chapter of Ethics of Our Fathers. There's a custom that every week of the 7 weeks, but it's 6 Shabbatot, 6 Shabboses between Pesach and Shavuot, that what we do is each week we read one of the chapters, we learn one of the chapters of Ethics of Our Fathers. So this week is the 2nd chapter. And so I was sitting with my son, and we were learning together. And this Mishnah, I just love this Mishnah. It says, Lo alecha hamlacha ligmor, aval iyata ben chorin lihibata limen. And the translation is as follows. You are not free to forsake your goals, your responsibilities, or to complete the task. Our goal is not to be perfect. But you're not allowed to stop pursuing perfection. Meaning, the goal is not We don't have to attain perfection, but we should surely never stop pursuing perfection. Right? Are we going to actually end our lives being perfect? I don't know. But what the Mishnah is telling us is that that's not the goal. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to pursue perfection. And what we try to do is every single day, no matter how big or how small we are spiritually, we try to take a single step towards that goal. It stays our goal. We try to attain it. I don't know that I'll ever attain it, but I'm going to keep it as my goal. Meaning, you know what? I'm not at full observance of Shabbos yet, perhaps. I'm not at full observance of kosher yet, but it's still my goal. Maybe one day I'll get there. And that is the perspective I believe that we all need to have in our own personal growth. It's not to say, you know what, I am who I am, and that's it. I am, right? I don't think we're comfortable with any of us, or, I know that the purpose of marriage is, I always say that marriage is a workshop in character development. Marriage is a workshop in character development. Any woman who is married to a man and thinks that it's just okay for him to stay who he is forever, right? I just don't think it's realistic, right? I think a woman understands that part of her mission is to help her husband grow, is to help him become a better person. That is the partnership between a husband and wife, is that she's there to be an azer, to be an assistant, to help him grow, to help him reach his perfection. It's interesting that the blessings that we make, that a woman makes when she says every morning, right? She says, Asani kirtzono, thank you, God, for making me in the way you wanted me to be. The way Judaism sees women is on a higher level, on a higher plateau, where she's at the top of the ladder. Jacob is at the bottom of the ladder, and her job as the woman of valor is to help her husband get up that ladder without falling. If a woman falls, and right, it's like a dear friend of mine gives a beautiful lecture on this topic, and he says that he has multiple proofs, but one of his cute proofs that he says, that ladder is the battleground of life. The battleground of life. And he says it's interesting that a scar on a man is an attractive thing. I don't know why, but it is, right? Women are attracted to that. They think a guy who has a scar on his face, like, wow, why, right? On a woman, it's not attractive. So here's the thing. A man is meant to be on the battleground. A man is meant to be facing the struggle of life. A woman's job is to be the princess. She's supposed to be the example where he says, you know what? I want to mow the lawn so that I can buy her an ice cream. I want to carry her bags home for her. She's the inspiration that he says, I'm going to change my life for her. And she has to keep herself pristine. She has to keep herself at the top of the ladder. Her on the battleground is not an attractive thing. Her on the battleground is not the exemplary woman, right? We always see, there was a complaint a few years ago. A woman wrote this article complaining about Disney, that it's always that the man is the hero and he always saves her. He always saves the girl who's held captive, or so he's always there to save her. Why isn't the woman the one saving? Why isn't the woman the one who's the hero? It's such a huge fatal error in understanding the inspiration of a woman. Tell me, what guy is up at 8 o'clock in the morning wearing a white suit on a horse? You know what guy? A guy who a woman inspired him. A guy who says, you know what, I'm going to change my whole life for her, to earn her love. That's the difference. You want to get the woman onto the battleground? That's not her role, right? It's not that she's not capable, right? But that's not where she will necessarily get her fulfillment, right? The man needs to be on that battleground. He needs to fight those wars. He gets those scars, right? It's a whole concept. It's a whole understanding of the role of mankind. Right? We're not here to just play father, play mother, play house. That's not really what it's about. We are in the struggle of getting our lives to the ideal space of our perfection. That's the goal. How do we do it? It's through these challenges, taking every single day as an opportunity. How can I be better today than I was yesterday? We sing a song every Friday night. We sing a song in every Jewish home. For who? For the woman of valor, right? Eshet Chayil. What is the goal of the woman? She builds the environment. She builds a home of growth. She builds a home of inspiration. She builds a home where the children feel that this is a home where we're going to speak properly. We're going to act properly. Because it's a place of pristineness. It's a place of holiness. It's a place of wholesomeness, right? While the father may be holding the stick of discipline, the mother holds the arms, the embrace of inspiration, of motivation. You can do it. You're so special. I believe in you, right? These are two very different roles. Now, it doesn't mean that every household has the father, the disciplinarian, and the mother, the inspirational. Every home is unique and every home is special. But as a general principle, those are the unique specialties of each of these two halves of each whole. All right, we're all unique. We're all special. We need to remember that our goal in life, our projection, we want to attain perfection. We want to. Will we ever? I don't know. The barometer is not by whether or not we have attained perfection, but did we pursue it? And that's the goal. The goal is to pursue perfection. All right, any questions so far?
I have a question.
Please.
If you want to pursue it, but you know that you're not going to do every single thing, is that wrong?
Not at all. It's not wrong at all. It's on the contrary. It's like, think of it like this, okay? If a swimmer, Michael Phelps, before he became an Olympic champion,
Mm-hmm.
do you think he was able to do everything perfectly? No, but he kept on trying and kept on trying and kept on trying, and then he became an Olympian. We're trying to become an Olympian with our growth, with our spirituality, and the only way to become an Olympian in our own spirituality is to keep on trying. So,
but what if we know and we say we're not going to do everything, but we're going to do 6 of the 10?
That's the most beautiful thing. Imagine this, okay?
Okay.
Have you ever been a teacher in a school?
No, just a substitute.
A substitute. Okay, so you realize and you appreciate that not every student knows how to do every math problem or knows how to spell properly, but you say, you know what? I don't want you to get everything right. I want you to just do as much as you can. I want you to push yourself a little bit. I want you to study a little bit more. I want you to work a little bit harder, and the best that you can do is what I want. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
That's
I guess.
You think God is any different? God wants us to do the best we can. But let's not fool ourselves and say, you know what? This is where I'm comfortable at. So this is what I'm comfortable with. So this is this is the best I can do. Maybe we're fooling ourselves. We have to always push ourselves a little bit out of our comfort zone. I want to share with you, it's now getting summertime, and it's getting, for those who are fortunate enough to have a swimming pool, many people are going swimming now.
Mhm.
And I remember when I was a student in yeshiva, I remember I was like sitting in yeshiva all day. I didn't do much exercise. And I said to myself, it's coming summertime. I'm going to be a counselor in a camp, and I need to get into shape. So I didn't use proper precaution. But what I did was I said, I found out that there was a big Olympic-sized pool in the neighborhood of my yeshiva. And I said, okay, I'll go there. I'll pay whatever, 15 shekel to go swim there during the special men's hours. And I went there and I started swimming, and I did, 10 laps. And I said, you know what, I can do 12 laps. So I did 12 laps. And then I said, yeah, I can probably do 15 laps. I did 15 laps. And then I kept on pushing myself, I can do a few more. 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 And I said, okay, at 70, I'm stopping. 70 laps. I haven't swam for 2 years. I didn't do any. And as I turned the 70th lap, I pulled my muscle and I couldn't walk for the rest of the summer. So, right. So we have to push ourselves, but not push ourselves too much. Okay. Because then if we push ourselves too much, then we fall all the way down and then we can't walk, right? Because we're just in such pain. So is it important to push ourselves? Yes, we should push ourselves, but we have to know our limits. And we should never, ever push ourselves beyond our limits, because then we fall backwards. It's like we're on that ladder. We said that life is the ladder of growth, but on a ladder, if you don't have stability, you fall. That's very dangerous. It's very dangerous for us to fall, because then you have to start from the bottom again and start all over again. Right? It's not like a staircase. You fall one step. No. On a ladder, you fall all the way down.
Right.
And it's very dangerous. So we have to be very, very careful. All right. Any other questions? Ed, I'm surprised. No questions.
No questions today.
Wow.
So far.
I must be doing something right. Glory, help me. Is he okay? Is he okay?
He seems perfectly normal to me.
Oh, wow. Okay, great. I'm honored.
Okay.
All right. Okay, we're going to
What
start
is
now.
normal?
Page 218. Deborah, you had a question?
Thank you. I'm sorry I joined a bit late, but I wanted to know, generally for your class, which book are you reading from?
So, well, every class is different, but this class is Rabbi Wolbe on Chumash. I don't know if you can see it on your screen.
I
Volume
can.
2.
Yeah, I think I have it. I was looking for it. Okay, thank you.
Pleasure. Okay, so who's next? We're on page 218. Ish imo ve'aviv tiro. A man should fear his mother and father. All right, Eliana, are you there? Would you like to read?
I'm here.
Would you like to read?
Sure.
Okay, go, please.
Okay. If a person were asked to determine which of the following hurts most, removing an entire fingernail, losing an eye, or undergoing heart surgery, he would have zero interest in evaluating the pain level of each of these procedures in order to come to a decision. Even though the loss of an eye or a fingernail is not life-threatening, the body feels acute pain when it is missing any part, even if it is not one of the vital organs. In a similar vein, with regard to the mitzvahs, we say in davening, Ki haim hayenu, for they are our life. Together, all the mitzvahs of the Torah create a spiritual body. The Torah does not differentiate between the various mitzvahs, nor does it categorize their levels of importance, because the lack of even a single mitzvah causes a deficiency in one's spiritual makeup and a flaw in his spiritual body.
Right, so all together they create this unit of I guess wholesomeness, and we that's why the Torah, very, very rarely does the Torah ever give the value to a mitzvah, right? We usually don't find that a mitzvah has a price tag. Almost never. There's one exception, There are several exceptions, but there's one major exception, that is honoring your father and mother. Honoring your father and mother, you know what the reward is? Living a long life. And that's a reward promised in the Torah. You honor your parents, you get a long life. Right? It's pretty incredible. Gloria, you want to continue? You want to read for us?
Mute. Okay. I'm on two devices. I'm going to go on the other device.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
All right. Maybe this wasn't a good idea. Are we on the first? The Torah is referring here not the physical living, but rather the spiritual living?
No, we're on 219. The Torah contains both mitzvos.
Oh.
let me read, okay?
Torah
Oh,
contains
you
both
get together.
mitzvot between
Good.
man and Hashem,
Okay.
and mitzvot between man and his fellow man. There are obligations to be fulfilled with one's limbs and others to be fulfilled with one's heart. Additionally, some mitzvot are constant, while others have to be performed at specific times. The fulfillment of all the mitzvot together aids one in achieving perfection in this world and assures him an honorable portion in the next world. Some people are naturally more outgoing and may have instinctive leanings toward performing chesed or toward loving their neighbor. However, they might be lacking in their performance of mitzvot between man and Hashem because they are missing the same level of inborn motivation for those mitzvot. Others are repulsed at the thought of defiling their mouths with non-kosher food, but have no inhibitions about sullying their mouths with lies or lashon hara. Keep on going.
Why not?
In this week's parsha, the Torah teaches us that we are not to follow our natural tendencies in the performance of mitzvot. The Torah commands us the man should fear his mother and father. Rashi notes that while this mitzvah places the mother first with regard to the mitzvah of honoring one's parents, the Torah gives precedence to the father, as it says, honor your father and your mother. He explains that naturally a child fears his father more than his mother, but honors his mother more than his father. Therefore, the Torah places an emphasis on fearing the mother and honoring the father. I have so many questions about this. We read.
Right, I'll give you an example. Okay, I'll give you an example to help illustrate this. So do you ever hear I'm sure you've watched a football game. Particularly the most popular football game is the Super Bowl. And you know, it's a lovely image every single time, right before they're about to kick off the game, and they zoom the camera right into the quarterback or to one of the linebackers, and they say, is there anything you want to say? And he says, every time, on mark, they say, Mom, this is for you, right? What happened to that? What happened is that it's all dedicated. You know why? Because honor is natural to the mother. All right, but you'll almost always hear a mother say, "Well, you wait till your daddy gets home." Right? When it comes to fear, right? When it comes to fear, it's natural that it's the father that the child fears. When it comes to honor, it's natural. So when the Torah commands us of these, it says, "Honor your father and mother." When it talks about fear, it says, fear your mother and father. The one which is not natural, the Torah puts first, because the natural one you don't need as much of a reminder of, because it's natural. But the one that's not so natural, right? That's not it, right? Is the one that the Torah needs to remind you of.
Mm.
Right? It really is. It's an amazing thing. All right. So, I guess I'll read now. Lily, do you have a copy of this?
No, I don't have a book. I'm sorry.
I got to get you a copy, and Lenny, I have to get you one as well. All right, so we'll figure out how to get you one. But we read in Kriyas Shema, in the Shema that we say, so that you should remember and perform all of my mitzvahs and be holy to your God. Through the performance of all of the mitzvahs together, one achieves the purpose of Yetzias Mitzrayim, the exodus from Egypt, which is forging that special connection to Hashem described in the subsequent verse. I am Hashem your God, who has taken you out of Egypt, to be unto you a God. So the goal and the purpose of every mitzvah is a very important thing. Many people associate mitzvahs with it's an action. It's an action that I need to do. And our sages tell us, they teach us that it is not about the action alone. Because if someone does an action without any connection, without any intention, without any so what happens? It's just an action. It does that action. If someone does that action and feels a connection to the Almighty, what happens is, the goal is, with that action, is that now they become more connected with the Almighty. They took that relationship up a whole nother level. I'll give you another example. I've said this before again, but I think it's worthwhile repeating. The first time a person does something, it's very, very special, right? You remember the first time you saw a certain view. It's like, wow, it's amazing, magnificent view, the most amazing view in the world. You climbed up that mountain and now you're able to see, it's like the view is just unbelievable, breathtaking. But what happens the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the 100th time you're there? Well, it doesn't, perhaps it's not as spectacular as it was the first time. And that's because we become creatures of habit. We see it once, we're inspired twice, 3 times, and then it becomes less and less exciting, right? And to the point where, you can go to the Grand Canyon, you're like, oh my goodness, this is unbelievable. Yeah, but what happens the second time you want to go? Like, what are you talking about? We were there already. What do you mean you're there already? We were in awe the first time. Why wouldn't be in awe the second time, right? But we let me ask you a different question. The word I love you, right? So a guy and a girl, they get together and they get married, and the first time they're able to say I love you, they muster up the courage and they're like, okay, this is going to be a big day. I think I'm ready to say I love you, right? It's a very special occasion. Fast forward 20 years later, they've said I love you 50,000 times, hopefully, at least, right? And they may not even realize what they're saying. They get off the phone like, I love you. 1 second, that was AT&T, right? I didn't even know who I'm talking to, right? We say it without even thinking, because it's become such a habit, because it's become such a rote. Wouldn't it be nice if we said that I love you with the same fervor, with the same excitement, with the same motivation, with the same, right? With the same anticipation, right? It would be, but the problem is that we become creatures of habit. And that we need to re-inspire ourselves. When we do a mitzvah, it shouldn't be like, oh, I did it. I just lit Shabbos candles. Okay, that's another Shabbos candles, right? No, it should be like the first time I've ever done this candle. Like the first time I've ever lit this candle. Like the first time I've ever observed this mitzvah. Because the purpose of a mitzvah is not just to do it. It's to connect to God through it. Right? Every step in the process, they say in marriage, one of the points of important guidance for a young man is that you have to realize that this is what they say. I think it's not incorrect, that everything you do for your wife, everything special you do for your wife is 1 point. 1 point. So you buy her a new car, it's 1 point. You buy her earrings, it's 1 point. You buy her a necklace, it's 1 point. You buy her a house, you build her a new house, it's still 1 point, maybe 2 points, right? But that's it, right? But it's a 1 point system. It's a 1 point system. For a woman, she needs to understand that for a man, it's not the same, right? A man, it's about the price tag, it's about how flashy it is, it's about how expensive it is. It's like, wow, this is an expensive watch, right? Okay, so that's great, right? But it doesn't work like that for women. She doesn't care the price. Now, if he buys her a bouquet of roses, right, it's 1 point as well. And if he buys her a card and writes a beautiful love note, that's also 1 point. And the idea is we need to understand is that we need as many points as possible. Now, our sages tell us that the relationship in marriage reflects the relationship also of us between us and the Almighty. And it's also a 1 point system. So what we try to do is get as many points as possible. So we do the mitzvah of learning Torah. By the way, you know how many mitzvahs we've now observed in the past hour that we've been learning together? According to the Chafetz Chaim. So the Chafetz Chaim makes a calculation that we can say 200 words per minute. Okay, 200 words per minute. So if we do the calculation, 200, right, times 60 is 12,000 mitzvahs that we performed in the past hour of learning Torah together. 12,000 mitzvahs, right? That's a lot of 1 pointers right there, right? The next mitzvah we do. The idea is to feel that when we're learning Torah, we're getting closer to God. When we're observing a mitzvah, we're getting closer to God. The goal is to build that relationship point by point by point by point. Try to get as many of those single points in as possible. Are there 2 pointers? Yes. There are those mitzvahs that the Torah promises us you're going to get a long life as a reward for it. All right? But that's not why we do it. We don't honor our parents so that we can get that reward. It's just a motivation where God says, you'll need this extra motivation perhaps sometimes. Sometimes it may not be as glamorous as you'd like it to be to honor your parents. I'm giving you the special motivation for you to understand this is an important mitzvah. But we don't do it for that reward. Okay, so are there any questions? Any questions? All right, my dear friends, thank you so much. It's been a real privilege and an honor to learn together. I look forward to learning again next week. And